do you move on when you feel justice hasn't been served? The simple answer is you can't. Just ask those who loved Serena and Craig. The pair died in a reckless driving accident. So how did the teenager who killed them escape jail?
He needs to be punished for what he's done.
We're the one that's missing her every day.
At 10 o'clock and 3 o'clock every day, Serena Drury would call her mum Betty.
It's absolutely devastating for her because that phone call doesn't come.
She was my best friend.
And every Sunday, Serena and Craig Day would visit her parents, Colin and Betty, for dinner.
And this particular Sunday, when she died, I didn't go home.
On that Sunday in July last year, their car had been hit by a 19-year-old who drove straight past a giveaway sign.
I didn't know where that was.
At 55 and 54 years old, Serena and Craig lost their lives. But the teenager responsible gets to live out the rest of his. He won't spend a day behind bars.
He got off scot-free.
He's got a future. We've got nothing.
Serena was the local florist. Craig, her close friend of 7 years, a third-generation truck driver.
And he always used to help her in the shop.
They both lived in Tocumwal on the Victorian-New South Wales border. Craig was a country boy through and through. He'd been driving trucks since he was 21, a hard worker who loved his dog, his home, and Serena.
They lent on one another a bit.
Serena was known around town as the Flower Lady, but to Kevin McCumsty,
I've always called her Reenie.
And losing Reenie was like losing a daughter.
Doesn't matter, if you're feeling a bit down, you go and see Reenie and you'll be soon cheered up.
An old family friend of the Drury's, Kevin's been by their side since the crash.
Colin and Betty are both in their 80s and they're lost.
Kevin lives just a kilometre down the road from the intersection. You have to drive past that intersection every day.
Yeah. Shit, we miss her.
On the day of the crash, Serena and Craig were in his Toyota Hilux.
When this guy came through the giveaway sign and ploughed into him, Craig was in the passenger seat beside her that got hit first.
They were hit and pushed metres by a Ford Ranger driven by Bart Moore. At the time of the crash, Bart Moore was on his provisional licence, or P1s. In New South Wales, you hold that licence for at least 12 months. But even with his little experience on our roads, Moore thought he knew best. On that Sunday afternoon, Moore drove straight through this intersection. He'd later tell a court that he'd never seen a car here before, and that's why he thought he didn't have to slow down.
Just surmising that there's not going to be anyone there, that's ridiculous.
There's nothing restricting his view.
Reports tell of a young man who sat and sobbed in an Albury court. It's reported Judge Jennifer English was told how Moore tried to help Serena and Craig out of the wreckage, but they were pronounced dead at the scene. The court heard while slumped on the roadside. Moore said, "I've done bad. I want my mum."
We have the worst road toll since 2010.
Now a 20-year-old, reports say Moore held his head in his hands while victim impact statements were read in court. Craig's sisters saying,
"It's a hole that can't be filled. I'm broken. Counselling doesn't fix it, nor does a bottle of wine."
Our family has been shattered by the recklessly dangerous actions of another.
During the hearing, it's reported that Moore told them, "I'm disgusted in myself because I've taken 2 innocent lives."
If he was a bit remorseful, he'd call round home and say sorry, or even make a phone call.
Kevin and the juries aren't buying Moore's remorse, not after they say he smiled in court upon hearing his 3-year jail sentence would be spent supervised in the community. His guilty plea gave him a 25% discount. So, for causing the deaths of 2 people, Moore must receive psychological treatment, abstain from illicit substances, and not drive for 3 years.
He should have been locked up in jail.
There's no question in my mind that that should have been a custodial sentence.
Victims advocate Howard Brown.
We have to protect the community from people like Moore.
On that Sunday in July last year, reports say it wasn't the first time Moore recklessly drove at a give-way sign.
He'd been booked previously for disobeying a give-way sign. He had been booked previously for exceeding the speed limit. Clearly, this young man is impulsive. If we were to take him into custody, we can tailor programs around his needs.
In sentencing, Judge English said custodial sentences could have significant damaging consequences on vulnerable young offenders. In Howard's eyes, Moore's an adult.
By the time he was sentenced, he was actually 20 years of age.
The families want to appeal. While they wait, it's just photos left to remind them of the love they've lost.
I want people to see who was killed here and to remember it, and for God's sake, slow down.
Those poor families have gone through it. It is so unfair. And we did reach out to Bart Moore, but he wouldn't comment.